Now, the next part, which is one of my favorites. So this is a book that changed my life. I was a call I was a call center, a client success coach. Um, and my VAs were struggling. They knew the script, but they didn't know how to win rapport. And I was struggling. I was a nurse before this. I wasn't used to talking to investors. And so I was getting tied up in things too. And I needed to work on my negotiations or my communication skills. And somebody told me about this book and I read it and it literally changed my communication life. So it was written by a guy named Chris Voss. He is a famous international FBI hostage negotiator. He actually changed the course of the FBI by changing how they approach hostage situations. Because before he started, the FBI had about a 50% kill rate, which means that every time they went to negotiate a hostage release, about half of the time the hostages died. Like, that's not a great rate, especially for a government, right? And so he came in, changed the game, and then he used those tactics and he started teaching them to business majors who wanted to learn sales. He started teaching them to, and now he has like a huge just coaching complex with people that teach his strategies, people that mentor the book. I mean, it's just a huge thing now. So, how do negotiation skills tie into cold calling, right? Well, as prospectors, it's our job and our only mission is to negotiate information out of the sellers, right? We got to get them talking to us. We got to do it fast. We have a short amount of time frame and it has to happen or we're not able to make a deal. And every single lead that we talk to can net us anywhere from five to $10,000. So it matters, right? And so we want to use these negotiations to get more detailed notes. And then we pass those notes over to the investor, and the investor uses those notes as ammo when they negotiate the deal. So that's our job. Now, this takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of repetition. And so, in order to know how to practice and repeat it, we have to break it down into little steps. So, that's what we're going to do next. All right, so let's talk a little bit about human nature. I mentioned this a little bit, but people really just want two things: they want to be accepted and they want to be understood, right? And they also have two urges: they want to feel safe and they want to also be in control. If we can give them that, they will talk to us. But until we give them that, they're going to be on guard with us, which means they could lie, they could withhold information, they could hang up, and they could do things we're not expecting. But if we understand where they're coming from and we accept it, we make them feel safe and secure and in control, then we can get whatever information we need. So we're gonna address how to make them feel accepted, understood, safe, and in control. Now, the first thing is we always test our hypothesis. We don't assume anything because then we'll be wrong and then they'll get offended, right? So we're gonna ask. We're gonna help them feel safe by uncovering what they actually need. Negotiation is not an art of battle, it is the process of discovery. The goal is to uncover as much information as possible without offending them, right? Without them killing the hostage, which is the phone call. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is that late night DJ voice. It's also your bedtime voice. I've got 3 pictures here. All of these indicate to me the DJ voice. Now, I'm going to talk about the one in the middle, the love songs, because that's where this came from. Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, we listened to the radio on a dialer that we turned with our finger. And if we wanted to get our own mixtape, we had to buy a blank tape like this and wait for our song to play the first note and then hit record. And that's how we would record tapes for our friends. But all of our favorite songs, if we were doing this for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, all the love songs came on Saturday night. on one radio station that was the love station. And the DJ for that love station had a voice that sounded like honey. See Morgan Freeman over here? He's got the same voice. He is a master DJ voicer in Hollywood. He plays God in everything. God is a master DJ voicer. He puts you at ease. He lets you know he's in charge. And being able to turn this on cue is very important. This last picture here of your kid, of reading to their kid at bedtime. Are we going to read our kids' bedtime story like this as if it's a crazy, crazy story? Or are we going to read the bedtime story right before we put them to bed, really laid back, and as if it kind of to lull them to sleep? It's the same thing. So it's the DJ voice is a low, slow, downward inflection. It's very reasonable, right? We're making a lot of sense when we use our DJ voice. Men have a natural advantage over women with this because they're born with it. But if women can use it on cue, they are unstoppable, right? That's why women tend to crush it in this industry, because we can use that DJ voice on cue and we're just statistically more trustworthy, or coming across as more trustworthy. All right. Why do we use this? We use this to create a level of trustworthiness, to put them at ease if they're anxious. And we do it in a way that doesn't trigger them to be even more defensive. So when do we do this? Usually in the intro, when they're like, who is this? How'd you get my number? We're going to say, that's a great question, Mrs. Seller. And I'm sure I can totally understand why you would want to know that. We actually got your number from an online database of property owners, but I'm just wondering if you are interested in getting an offer on your home today, right? Don't use the word but. That sounds argumentative, but then we move back into the script, right? We accept, oh yeah, you're having a hard time. We're going to say, I totally understand why that would affect you. However, here's what we're doing and why we're safe and you're okay to continue talking to us. While, will you answer another question for me, please? And this is going to do a couple things, right? One, when you're talking to someone who's upset and you're very calm, you're telling them something without your words. You're telling them, hey, dude, we're chill. Why are you acting crazy, right? Tone it down and have a real conversation with me. It also tells them that I see you're scared, but I'm not scared. I have nothing to hide, right? And so it shows that you're not gonna, well, I understand, you're not gonna fight fire with fire. You're gonna fight fire with water, and they're gonna come down to your level. It's hard to do it if you've never done this before and you're not self-aware and you're an emotional person. You're going to find yourself trying to fight fire with fire. You're going to become argumentative. You're going to raise your voice. You're going to become, exasperated with, well, just listen to me, seller, and so we need to avoid that. So we're going to go back to that first self-management technique. We're going to breathe. If you're not breathing, you got to breathe. Then you're going to pick your words to be much more calmer. You're going to talk slowly, calmly, and a little bit lower than normal. Now, that could be in tone, meaning sometimes you talk up here and sometimes you talk down here. And that also means in volume as well. So you're just going to be a little bit quieter, right? Because they're agitated. You're going to say, ooh, tone it down. And this will calm them down, especially if you're choosing the right words. It will at least show them, dude, I'm acting like a jerk. I need to calm down. So, all right, DJ voice. Bam. All right. This next one is the benefits of smiling. Now, if you've worked in the call center world for any amount of time, I guarantee you've probably been told to smile. But I want you to know there's more then the fact it's contagious and the lead can hear it, your brain is going to work better when you're smiling. You're breathing, you've got less stress hormones, you're able to think more clearly. And when you have less stress hormones, you're able to problem solve and collaborate more. Yes, the lead can hear it, but can you imagine trying to negotiate with someone while you're grumpy, right? Say you go to the market and there's a nice thing that you see there, but you don't have all the money for it and you need to negotiate it in order for you to buy it. Are you going to go up to that shopsman and say, I want to buy, I want to buy this book. Why won't you take $2, right? With the scowl on your face? Or are you going to say, I just love this book. It really is beautiful. And I would love to be able to take it home with me. But, I only brought $2. Is that maybe something that we could work out? Right? Super smiley. You're going to get more. You're going to get more negotiation that way. So same thing. We always want to be positive. We always want to be bright and smiley. If they can't feel it from just the conversation, we're not doing it enough, right? It's almost twice the positivity you think you need. All right. Now, if you're new to doing this, put a mirror back behind your computer and watch yourself. It will help. All right. Bam. Now let's talk about this one because this one's big. Now, if you're brand new here, don't worry. We want to get you through the intro, how to handle a no and how to plant a seed first. But the next thing that we learn, because this comes in handy with the condition questions, is how to set a mirror. And a mirror is what you use when you want someone to keep talking or they give you a vague answer. So say we ask them the question, so Mr. Seller, have you considered, I'm wondering if you would consider an offer on your property? And their answer is, well, maybe a couple years ago, but not recently, but not now, right? So, what? Like, you're as a prospector, you're like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, how do I go into my next part of the script? So we're going to get them to elaborate. Tell me more without saying, you thought about it in the past, but not now. We're just going to say the last part. Not now? I'm sorry, not now? And that tells them a few things. It tells them, one, this person heard what I said, but they didn't understand it. They don't know what I mean when I said that. They heard me, though, because they repeated my words, but they didn't understand what I meant. So, this is the other thing the brain is thinking. How can I rephrase what I just said and elaborate? And then they have to get those words out, right? So the one thing that is so important when you're practicing a mirror is to be quiet. Don't talk after you set your mirror. So say your question. I'm sorry, not now. And then don't talk over. That's the hardest part of a mirror. These are magic. When I started using mirrors with my investors, all of a sudden they went from getting frustrated with me trying to explain how their follow-up was going and me having to ask questions and questions and questions to set a mirror, and they kept talking. Set another mirror, and they kept talking. Because remember, our goal is to negotiate information out of them. So if every 10 seconds you set a mirror, they will keep talking. And that's really all we're looking to do. So you cannot write a mirror into a script. A mirror is very specific on what that person is telling you. But anytime you get a vague answer, anytime you get just an unclear answer or a short answer, you can absolutely set a mirror and let them keep talking. Now, I had to do this in the beginning too. When you learn a mirror, it's going to be very hard not to talk afterwards. Even if you're asking a question, it doesn't seem natural. If you're doing this with English as a second language, you probably hear that when you repeat a word back to them as a question, that means you don't know what they said. Like, you don't understand, no comprendo, and you know what I mean? But in English as a native language, when we talk like that, what that means is, what is that? Explain what you mean when you say that, right? So you might have to actually even put your hand over your mouth in the beginning to keep yourself from talking over yourself. So it's still important to do. All right. Now let's talk about empathy. I've mentioned empathy a couple times. You need to have it when you're dealing with a death in the family. You need to have it when you're talking to someone who's going through financial trouble, right? We don't want to judge them. But what exactly is empathy? So, empathy is the ability to step into the shoes of another person, right? To imagine what they're going through. Not just imagine it, but be able to understand their feelings and their perspectives. And then it's a three-part definition. They have to use that understanding to guide their actions. If we just understand what someone's going through, that's sympathy. We don't need sympathy for these guys. We need empathy because we need to be able to empower them and motivate them to make a decision based on their feelings and experiences and perspectives. We can't do that with sympathy. We have to take action, which means we're going to have empathy. Now, that is not easy to do, not for everyone. It's one thing to have empathy for your kid as they fall down and scrape their knee. We're going to see what they went through, understand what they're feeling and what they're going through, and then we're going to go comfort them because that's what they need. That's how we're letting it guide our actions. But how do you have empathy towards someone across the world who didn't really want us to call and who's probably not too friendly, right? It's like having empathy for a serial killer that you watch on a TV show. How do you do that? I'm going to teach you 3 steps. You can do this with anybody in any situation. In fact, I suggest that you practice. If you like to watch serial killer shows, practice, right? If you like to watch something like Criminal Minds or NCIS or CSI, any of those types of shows where there's a bad guy every episode, practice these next steps with the bad guy. And I promise you, you will start to grow your tactical empathy skills. How to have empathy for someone that we don't really like. Because Chris Voss, as an international hostage negotiator, this is what he did. And he started saving lives. So break it down. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes. And as soon as they say hello, we're going to start to imagine that person's environment. Where are they? Are they alone? Are there other people? Are they home or are they away from home? Are they old or young? How old? How young? Are they safe? Right? Can you hear anxiety and stress that they might not have everything they need to survive in their voice? If you were to call Texas 2 weeks ago, I guarantee you would have found some people on the phone that were frantic, that didn't know how they were going to heat their next meal or give water to their kids or flush the toilet for the next week, right? Think about how prepared they are for this. Are they well-to-do? I didn't know how to do this politically correct, but does their outfit cost $20 or $2,000, right? How prepared are they for everything that they're going through? I want you to get as clear as of a mental picture as possible. When I call and I'm talking to an investor and I pick up and I can hear the construction background, or he's in his truck and you can hear the big old loud engine and you kind of hear the radio in the background. And I mean, he's going, like he's making money today. That's why they want to be talked to like a driver, because you can hear They're busy. They're in money-making mode. They don't have time to sit and answer questions from the secretary. They want to talk to a driver. When you're calling and a little old lady answers the phone, and you can hear her TV in the background, and maybe you hear a dog yapping, right? You think she probably lives alone. She probably you know, is struggling. If she's looking to sell her house, maybe she's struggling. You can also really get a good physical picture if you look up their address on Google as you do this. So you're looking at a picture of the house, you're hearing them talk, you've got your eyes closed, and even from the way they say hello, you're trying to imagine what they look like, right? What type of person are they? All right. Once you have a good, clear mental picture, or as close of one as you can, you're going to imagine what feelings they're feeling right now. People give it away in their verbal cues and in things that happen between the words. So listen to the volume. If they're low volume, maybe they're depressed. They're high volume, maybe they're angry. If listen to their pacing, right? If they're talking really fast, they're probably in a hurry. They're probably stressed, or maybe they just talk that way. They're high energy. They're excited. Maybe they talk really slow. Maybe that tells you they're an older person. Um, Listen to the tonality, right? Sometimes, well, we all have a natural tonality, right? A range that we speak within. But if I'm speaking to you in one range, and then all of a sudden my tonality gets really sharp, I'm mad, right? So listen for those little bitty things, the deep sighs. I just explained this to you, right? Frustration. Or even the awkward pauses. Sometimes we ask a question and we know it's a dumb question because they don't answer it. They just sit there and be like, I can't believe this person just asked me this dumb question. They're not even going to answer us right away. And then when they do answer, you can hear they're just sarcastic with their voice, right? So listen to their voice and try and imagine what they're feeling. They're going to say, they're going to give away so many clues to this. Now, are they feeling fear of an uncertain future, or not sure what's going to happen? Are they exhausted from keeping up with all of their rental properties? Are they sad or grieving that a family member recently passed away? Are they just frustrated that you cold called them? How dare you, right? What feelings can you identify and then give them a name? So you've got a mental picture, you've got a name of an emotion, or two, or three, whatever you need, right? The next thing you're going to identify is their motivation to talk to you today, not their motivation to sell. That's a different type of motivation. For tactical empathy, we need to find out why they want to talk to us today. What is fueling those feelings for them to keep sharing them with us? Now's the time we get to be super analytical. Do we think they're bored based on their tonality and the TV in the background on the infomercial show, maybe? And they're just talking our little ear off, right? Are they lonely? Are they telling an emotional story and wanting to be held emotionally over the phone? Are they financially distressed? Can you hear that in their voice? And they're just needing some help from anyone who offers it. Once you have identified what they look like, what their environment is, what they're feeling right now, and why they're talking to you today, you are in a safe place to then put a label on it. And if you put the right label on someone, it's like giving them a seal of approval. You guys are bonded for life now. You just over the phone in a short amount of time summed up exactly what they're going through. You got a deal, right? And that's what we're trying to do. So we're going to put a label on the situation after we've done a really good job imagining who they are, where they are, what they're feeling, and why they're talking to us. And let's talk about that next. So with a label, that's a seems like or a sounds like statement. We want to use our words and summarize their situation, right? Their feelings, their experience, and their situation. This can be both positive or negative. A positive label would be like, seems like you've spent a lot of time and energy on this, Mr. Seller. They're explaining to you all the updates they've done to the house, right? That's a good label. Another one, sounds like you're a little stressed out with it all. It's okay to label that if you're hearing that. They're frustrated at the rental properties and, they're tired of it all, right? Label it. Whatever you feel, label it. Another one, seems like I caught you off guard today. So important. Sounds like you're really ready to enjoy retirement, right? All of these, I want you to go on and take a screenshot of this slide. So important to have. Gives you some ideas as to labels you can place. All right. Now, as with mirrors, after you set a label, which is a seems like or a sounds like statement, you have to be quiet. Now, I think it's even harder to be quiet after a label than it is a mirror, because with a mirror, you're asking a question, right? So it's easier to ask a question and to be quiet. With these, you're making a statement. It's kind of a questioning statement, but it's still a statement. So it's much easier to talk after it. So whatever it takes, put your hand over your mouth, bite your tongue, whatever. After you say your seems like or sounds like statement, you have to be quiet. Can't talk over it or it loses its value. And if you've done a good job on this, you're going to hear the best words ever, which are, that's exactly right. So true. All right.